BJ from More Game Gumbo here. Got my guests here, Adam and Woody from Hutchu Games. We're talking some of the spicy games, but let's get to one of the spicy games that you guys have coming out. And you're flying all the way to Dusseldorf to go to Essen Spiel to promote the big retail. I guess that's going to be the street date release, basically at Essen.
Yeah, so I'll call it a pre-release release. So what do I mean is that, you know, we literally went to our Kickstarter backers and begged them, you know, said, hey, you know, we're gonna, if nobody objects to this, you know, we're planning to air freight units from China to Spiel so that we can have a presence and sell some games here. And it's before the boats are going to be over to unload the games and before they make it to distribution. So we didn't love doing that. You know, we back a lot of games on Kickstarter ourselves, but everybody was incredibly supportive. They know, you know, we're a small company doing what we can to get going. Got to use this kind of thing to get attention. So, yeah, that's where we are in the process. So the game's basically finishing manufacturing. We've got units shipping and to go to Spiel. And so we'll have about 150 units available for sale there. And yeah, we're delighted to be there. And then shortly thereafter, the games will get to Kickstarter backers. And then once we take care of those guys, then we'll get it into distribution.
And we're talking with Hutchu Games Plunderbund, right? It's going to be there at Essen Spiel, but a lot of people maybe miss the Kickstarter. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of the game. How did Plunderbund come to be?
Yeah, so the very first thing that happens, you know, is Adam has this epiphany that he needs to be a board game designer. And I said, hey, you know, I'll help you because, you know, I can work the business side of this, right?
Right.
And but what actually happened is that I had the first idea. And that first idea was kind of a simulation of an emerging high technology market. So that was the genesis of the idea, and it was modeled based on work I'd been doing in the high tech industry for 15, 20 years, which involved you know, it's hard to believe an emerging market could take 15 years to emerge, but that's literally what I observed over the course of my career was a single market doing that. And it gave me a lot of time to kind of reflect on what that meant and the various stages the market passed through. So I created almost in no time, I would say, that model. And based on, you know, one of the games I'd played prior that I kind of enjoyed was Trains, right? So what did I like about Trains? Trains had deck building, but it wasn't like Dominion style, which to me was just too overwhelming. But it had the map component. So it had some deck building and a map. And I thought, cool. So I can use this basic idea and apply my economic simulation to that. And that's what we did.
Yep.
And then I presented it to Adam, and he said,
I said, this feels like work. Hey, can we change the theme? Because you know, we both were in the high tech market. There we go. And
yeah, my buddy Alex Goldsmith's checking in. He wanted to know a little bit about the shirt. And yes, I'm wearing the Draft Mechanic thematic Euro shirt. Look, it's got a cube with a sword sticking out. And that's got what you guys were going for, some theme along with the simulation, right?
That's right. Well, and what ended up happening from that point was the theme kind of took on a life of its own and added an entire new dimension to the game that we wove into that economic simulation.
Right.
The core engine we always viewed as like, you know, we had to preserve that at all costs because that was like the core mechanic in the game was this economic simulation. But once we started kind of exploring the theme, you know, originally we were talking about things with high fantasy. So, you know, we've got goblins and we've got halflings and dwarfs and gold. But then we started working with an artist, and Adam, who is the creative half of our combination, was describing, you know, kind of what he wanted out of our artist, who's fantastic, by the way. This guy's name, let me just throw it out. His name is Joe Shawcross. He is awesome.
Where's he from? And look, there's Baker Mitchell checking in. What's up, Baker, from the Dukes of Dice forums? Nice to see Baker checking in.
Howdy.
Hey, Baker. So we found this guy. What's the site we found him on?
DeviantArt.
DeviantArt. Yeah. And he had done what really drew me in when I first saw some samples of his artwork. Just were the maps that he had done for other gaming worlds. And I thought, oh, this is perfect, because it wasn't too cartoonish. It was colorful. Anyway, so Adam starts describing the art to him and says,
I say, we were, I want 90% medieval fantasy. I want 10% some Americana. I get tired of my medieval fantasy being European based. I wanted it to be American based. No lords or kings. So, I was like, think about Al Capone, maybe some fedoras and three-piece suits, but I want it, mostly medieval fantasy. Anyway, he came back and he just, a little bit of medieval fantasy, like orcs and elves and goblins, but it's like 90% Prohibition era Chicago.
Yeah, I was thinking, if you guys have played Scythe, I'm assuming, or about Scythe from Stonemaier Games, the cool thing about the art in that game is the dichotomy or the juxtaposition of these big giant metal mechs next to these Russian peasants, right? And when you see those together on this gloomy landscape, it really stands out. When I saw the art from your game, to see that 1920s era Prohibition speakeasy, they've got all the looks, and yet they've got elf ears or orc things coming out. That juxtaposition of the two without being cartoony, it's not realistic, but it's somewhere in between the two. I just thought that was really, really intriguing, and kind of already tells you what this game is going to be about. This game is going to have a little bit of backstabbing, a little bit of racketeering, right? It's going to have all of those different elements. The artwork set the stage for the game, and kudos to you guys for being able to do that. Hey, BJ from Morgan Gumbo, did we lose them there? Adam, Woody. Yep, I think we lost them. Let's see if they can log back in. BJ from Morgan Gumbo here. Oh, look, there they are. I'm bringing them back in just a second. Hey, that wasn't me this time. It looks like you guys got disconnected. What happened?
I don't know.
It must be the rain. We got a little tropical storm overhead. What do you do?
Well, welcome back. So what I was saying is kudos to you guys. What attracted me about Scythe was that juxtaposition of the mechs with the Russian peasants. It really was, disjointed the way it is, but it flowed together with that gloomy landscape. And then I see Plunderbund, and it's got this 1920s speakeasy Prohibition look mixed in with fantasy, and it really sets the tone for what I think the game is going to bring out. It's going to have gangsters. It's going to have a little bit of backstabbery. It's going to have all of those different elements. So kudos to you guys for letting the artwork kind of set the tone of the game.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the next thing that happens is that it literally evolved the story of the game. So it originally is about selling, goods into an emerging market. And those goods are, in this case, black market goods. All right, well, that's good. That's interesting. But then it did add, as you mentioned, the flavor with the racketeers, because we thought, oh, hey, we've got gangsters. What are they going to do? Well, they're going to be extorting from those same merchants that you're trying to sell to. Well, now we've added a whole new dimension to the game, and just gives you more ways to win and more depth. It gives you more flavor, a better story to tell. So yeah, the art really pushed the story and the theme.
Yeah, the art pushed what we call punch you in the face mechanics, right? So we have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking when I saw the Kickstarter, the whole Kickstarter page, it was the video that caught my eye. I don't know who you got to do the video, but the voiceover, the female that did the voiceover, really sets the tone. I mean, it reminds me of it's almost like a 1920s version of The Sopranos or the Godfather movies with fantasy overlaid over it. So kudos to whoever it was, because she did a good job.
We listened to 100 people. I'm not kidding.
Ooh.
Do that whole thing in order to find. I was looking for Katharine Hepburn, old school, early Katharine Hepburn before
Sure.
she got a quavery voice in her. And she has that real distinct accent, man. And there are not many people that can do that accent.
This person pulled it off.
Got it really well.
Yeah, she did. And actually, the company we worked with is a local business called Motion Graphics.
Okay.
And Motion
Giraffics, you got it.
yeah.
Yeah, because they've got all of the art kind of moves in and out as you're looking at it. It's a very good Kickstarter video, guys. Kudos.
Thank you. Yeah, we liked it a lot.
Yeah.
So tell us, BJ from Gumbo, got Woody and Adam from Hutchu Games here talking about Plunderbund. Who do you think? You've been demoing this game, you've been play testing with people, you've been showing it off to people at cons. Who does it seem to appeal to? Who's the person that instantly gets this game? What kind of gamer?
The heavy Euro gamer. It's a heavy Euro game, heavy cardboard. It's sit down and think.
There's Steve with the name Samwise Spade.
Well, and let me add to that. It's interesting because we've done a ton of cons, as you mentioned, and there are a couple things that happen. The first thing that happens is about 50% of the people that stop because of the miniatures that we're using to play the game. And it's just fascinating to see that. They go, I don't know much about the game, but I want to buy it because I love the miniatures, right? So that's, interesting thing, number one. Number two is the people who really immediately get it are the people who have done any sort of deck building.
Right.
They've done any kind of deck building. They immediately understand how to play the game. Their first games are fun for me to watch.
Right.
And I've watched hundreds of these games.
Sure.
So they're fun for me to watch, and they end up being extremely competitive. There's some, where it takes people a couple of seasons to really kind of get. Seasons are, 3 months of gameplay in the game. It takes them halfway through before they really start to kind of connect the dots. And I would probably be, by the way, one of those players who'd take me just a little bit longer because I don't thrive on a lot of big deck builders. But
if you've played deck builders, you're gonna dive right into this game.
Oh, piece of cake. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, instantly get it. And that's what we've seen at these cons.
So we are talking about that medium weight, heavyweight gamer. Is it a game though that a gateway gamer can get into, or is this one that they should wait until they have a little bit more experience on their belt?
So we designed the first quarter of the game as basically a kiddie pool before you dive into the deep end. So we've absolutely planned for it to be usable by somebody that's not a heavy board gamer, right? And I want to say in play testing, we've seen people that don't seem to know even how to shuffle cards come away saying that they love playing the game, right? But it's one of those games that somebody that's experienced and a little more savvy and knows what they're doing will beat it. There's a strategy to it. I mean, it's not a luck game. So, the person that doesn't know what they're doing gets beat by the person that does. So
give us the meat. Is it what's the play count? How long are we talking for the game? And what are you looking at for what's that retail price going to be?
Yeah, so the game is 2 to 5 players, and the box duration is 30 minutes per player.
Okay.
And certainly on your second play, that's accurate. First play, add on at the front end, 30 minutes, set up and get through the rules. So I think it plays really fast as a 2-player game, as an example.
We play 2-player games on that probably the most. That's probably the most we've done. Of course, we're play testing it, right? Makes up.
No, but that's important because you got a lot of people that watch. People like Jason Dinger, they play 90% of their games 2-player. So because it's him and his wife playing at home. This is the kind of game that they're going to enjoy. It plays well 2 players.
Yes.
Not every game out there plays well 2 players. They may say they do, but they don't.
No, it's been some of the more thrilling finishes, and occasionally some. There have actually been games Adam and I played against each other recently, where I'll just wallop him in a 2-player. But that's not terribly common. As you get to higher player counts, the point spreads tend to be less dramatic. In 2-player, you can see somebody really crawl away, or not crawl away, but
What's a good score in Plunderbund? Not a great score, but what's a good score in Plunderbund? What are players shooting for in that first game?
About 70 points. The winner will be about 70 points. Maybe we've seen as low as 55. So if you're looking at that track, it goes all the way to 100.
Sure.
So if you hit that last bend, then you've scored a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we have a guy that does that. Bradley will probably score 100 plus that first try. So it's just he's just good at games. You know, we have every group has that guy, and he's our guy. He maxes out those games.
We aim for the point spread between first and second. We like to see it within about 10 points. Now you can just like the game that Woody's talking. I think he beat me by 25 points, but that is really abnormal. I mean, you have to. I was trying out a strategy that
Sure you were, Adam. No, look, I do that all the time. Sometimes you play a game enough where you just want to say, man, I'm not going to play it the way I always play it. I'm going to try something else, right?
No, absolutely. And the good news in this game is we really did focus on a lot of different strategies. Essentially, the game starts with each player starting with the same set of 8 cards. But as you play on, you end up drafting into your guild an additional 6 members. And just by doing that, every player ends up with a different strategy in the game.
Okay.
So as a result, there are multiple ways to win. And I think everybody's going to leave going, oh, man, if I'd done this like this, and that's exactly, it's not a game if there's not a little regret at the end, unless you just won, right? So.
Well, we unboxed it Sunday night, the copy that you guys sent us that we're going to be doing. And wow, the components are fantastic. I mean, I've got one of the guys who actually designs games, does production games, and is trying to get into the industry. And he was looking at this going, this is first class. You guys did not spare any expense. This is a really good edition. Is that the edition that people are going to be getting when they get retail?
So let's see. We have sent you a box that has 2 flavors of miniatures, if I recall right. One is a set of wooden meeples,
right,
and the other is a set of plastic miniatures. And the wooden meeples are the base edition, and the plastic are the what we refer to, at least in our Kickstarter, was our middle edition. So those are the two. That's the only difference. So all of the other components in the game are exactly the same.
So if people buy it at their friendly local game store, what are they going to be getting?
They're going to get the wooden meeple version.
Nice.
And that version is going to have a list price, an MSRP in the US. We think, now this is not all final, but I think it's going to hit at about 59. I almost said euros because I've got euros. I'm like immersed. But we're actually, it's higher. It's a lot.
Don't try to pay with euros in Lafayette. It's not going to work, Woody. It's not going to work.